Okay, so this evening, it's my pleasure to speak with Stephen Petronio and talk about his life in the arts. But before that, we have a commercial for the Masterwork Foundation. And so take it away, Todd.
Thank you, Joe. The Masterwork Music and Art Foundation was founded over 60 years ago to promote excellence in the arts, and they did so originally via music. But in the last few years, the interest in supporting excellence in the arts has expanded. And today, the foundation gives away three different types of awards: a premier award, a $10,000 grant, if you will, that goes out to a person or entity around a particular discipline. Community arts grants that are smaller awards that are given to people or organizations that support work in the community, and then some competitive awards, small awards that are given out to individuals. We also offer some free classes and this series here, A Life in the Arts, which is dedicated to celebrating people who've dedicated themselves to the arts in various ways in the hopes of inspiring generations to come. So thank you, Stephen, for joining us tonight. And with that, I will pass the baton back to Joe.
Okay, you got to watch for those batons. Anyway, so you know what I'm going to try to do here is so we don't see that. All right, we are going to hide non-video. There we go. That's better. All right, so first of all honored to make your acquaintance, but the question that I basically come up with, I'm in my 70s now, and I've had a life around the arts. I mean, I've sung in choruses in Carnegie Hall, and I've directed some theater back in the day. But what my particular fascination is in how you go about having a life in the arts, because it ain't easy, and there's tons of people who will tell you you shouldn't. But anyway,
Well, look, first of all, I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you, Todd, and thank you, Joseph, for having me. A life in the arts, it chose me. I didn't really choose it.
mm,
I didn't know anything about dance uh, before I stumbled into my first dance class in college, and I just, the flame was lit, and it became a very passionate obsession of mine. I didn't really realize I was having a life in the arts for many years. I was just dancing and
right.
doing job. I was a waiter. I was a bread baker. I was a masseur. I had a million different jobs as I was beginning my studies in dance. So I didn't really and I went to school for medicine. So I started going to school for medicine. I went to Hampshire College and I went as a pre-med
Mhm.
student. And I was the first child from my family to go to college. And so, of course, I was going to be a doctor.
Mm,
And and I took a dance class because I was chasing some person around who I really liked, and she was a dancer, and she was like, "Oh, you should try dance. You're really good." And so I was like, "Okay, I'm going to take a dance class," and I took a dance class, and boom, in that improvisation class, I was struck by the thunderbolt of, "Oh my God, I have a body, and I have no idea what it's capable of." And so
right.
that began it. So one thing leads to another, and then out of college, I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing, but I was working as a chef and a busboy on one restaurant and a chef on another restaurant, and I auditioned for a woman named Trisha Brown, who happens to be one of the seminal postmodern choreographers
Yeah.
uh, of our time, and she hired me as her first man, and so then I had a job that was paying, and in those days it wasn't paying very much, but life wasn't much cheaper back then. This was in
Yeah.
the I started my job with Trisha in 1979. So just for context, my rent was
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
50 or something, so it was much easier back then to have to focus on art and make enough money to survive.
Yeah.
Uh, so it just one thing just led to another, and then I decided that I had something that I could say, and it was about uh, finely crafted movement, uh, which maybe wasn't so popular back in those days. Performance art was just really breaking. And so, to be a dancer making steps was maybe not the most popular thing to do, but I, in my way, understood that I could do something that a lot of other people couldn't. And that's what I was going to pursue. So, I just
Well,
been chasing that.
I remember back then that if you said that you were interested in dance, there was an immediate question of what category.
Right. Well,
And
that happens all the time. Still.
classical or modern or jazz or what. And I'm delighted that those categories are not as hard and fast as they used to be.
Well, you would be surprised because I joke about this all the time. And in fact, I have a show coming up at Skirball at NYU and on November 2nd. And I'm going to do some talking in it. And I was thinking about what I wanted to say. And, there's always two or three questions that I always get. And one of them is, oh, you're a dancer. Is it like on Broadway? Or like what is the category? And I'm interested in contemporary ideas. I've done stuff for theater, but I do concert dance, and so
Mhm.
most people now the new question is, oh, so is it like, so you think you can dance, or so they have cultural references that are on TV.
Well, yeah,
So,
yeah.
Broadway has been replaced by TV
By
competition
TV, yes.
dancing. Yeah. So, and my mother, even rest her soul, my mother passed away in the 80s, but just before I started to make it, and even my mother would say to me, "So now, what do I tell people? What kind of dance is that?" And
Yeah.
it is constant.
I I guess people do need a frame of reference, but
They really want to know what the story is.
yeah, exactly. But well, particularly with dance, the thing that I think most people don't get is that there's so much work involved in getting to be able to perform and simply
Yeah.
getting your body ready to do things that oh no, you're only supposed to do this one thing or you're supposed to do this other thing. No, if you're
Oh,
ready, yeah,
I particularly, because I started late and I started as an improviser. Well, what I consider late, I was 18,
right.
but I didn't know anything about dance, and I started as an improviser. So I didn't really, and I hadn't seen, I had seen Nureyev dance Sleeping Beauty as a graduation present my cousin gave me from college. So I was
Hmm.
graduating from high school, and she took me to see Sleeping Beauty because she was interested in dance, and I saw Nureyev dance Sleeping Beauty, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, although I knew Nureyev was amazing, but I didn't understand it. That one of the questions people, always ask is, what is it about? And or what does it mean? And so, as a contemporary artist, if you want a good story, go to the theater or read a book.
Right.
If you want to look at form and shape and rhythm and have a in the body experience that isn't intellectual but is somatic of the body, then come to one of my shows.
Mhm. No, it's well, and yeah, but there's always that pigeonholing. But the no, in particular, I was watching a piece of American landscapes this afternoon, and it yeah, it's this whole fluid, just I don't know, just amazing things that you didn't know bodies could do. And,
Well, we do it. The other question is, how do you do it? And so I always say we do it one step at a time. But
yes,
should we have a look at a little bit of American landscapes?
yeah, let's do that. We can, right, we're going to do that. Hold on. I'm going to make sure we start at the beginning and we're going to share our screen. And it's going to be, I think, that one. And wait a minute. You know what? Before we do that, I just realized that there is, when you share your screen in Zoom, you have to check this little box about sharing the sound, or
Oh,
otherwise you don't
right.
get the sound. So, okay, we're here, and can you see can you see
Yes,
my
I can see
screen?
it. I can see it.
Okay, yeah, because I can't. Anyway, so we'll start.
Can I talk over this?
Yeah,
So
please.
the visual designs are Robert Longo,
Hmm.
the great New York visual artist, and those are charcoal drawings of. In this, the opening is all pastoral imagery. So woodlands and sea uh, and images of America.
Hmm.
Uh, and then you see the American flag. And the music is Joseph Van Weisem with Jim Jarmusch, the film director, who's also a guitarist. So those are my collaborators, and we made this right before the pandemic hit. And I was thinking about uh, locating the movement in in American landscape. So
Hmm.
there's a series of American landscapes, and in the body, the work is abstract, and my whole mission is to make interesting movement. But I was using imagery from my memories of growing up in America. Uh, and so there's images with fists that are um, uh, Muhammad Ali is in there, and Rosie the Riveter is in there for the World War II postcard.
Hmm.
And, various some pop images and some quite serious images. Well, I think that's probably
Well, I think, folks, I think we have I think I'm going to pause this because my temptation is to just let it play and
yes, that's fine.
enjoy it with you. But let's pause. Okay, and there we go. At any rate, no, the one thing I do I get watching this, the question that comes to mind is one that Todd had suggested, which is um, the transition from someone doing the movement and creating movements for your own body because you came out of improvisatory dance, but and then now becoming a choreographer where it's you're creating movement for other people
Correct.
and also creating a context for a bunch of people moving together. Um, and that to me is fascinating. It's something like the transition from acting into directing.
You moved your microphone.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. No, but it's like the transition from being an actor, being the guy on stage, to being the person who's organizing the whole experience.
Mhm. Well,
And
you've given a classic textbook beautiful definition of what a choreographer does. And I started dancing quite late. As I said, I was 18. In
mhm,
my mind, it was quite late. The women I was dancing around had started when they were, 2 and 3. So
yeah,
I,
well, yeah, women start early in dance.
I was a thinking, human adult, adult at 18. I thought I was an adult, but I
Hmm.
was already thinking about the world, and I was, a person in formation, but pretty formed. And so I didn't have to let go of anything as a, the transition from being a dancer to a choreographer happened. I mean, I became both at the same time.
Oh,
So
okay.
so I didn't have to like grow out of being a dancer. I became a dancer at the Trisha Brown Company, but I was also making my work at the times. And as an improviser, you're always making the context, sets of rules for how to behave in public, and how your body's going to move. And then I just made the transition to having that happen on the spot to going into the studio and working with the dancers and deciding what I wanted the audience to see.
Right.
So it was a pretty seamless transition for me. I'm also very bossy, so that helps.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, well, okay. So that's it's interesting because I know a lot of dancers, it's not a natural transition.
Yeah.
They're used to being bossed around
Yeah.
rather than
Well,
bossing.
so I didn't have a definition of myself as a dancer. So it was quite easy for me to think about creating.
Mm,
And in the very first dance class I took, the improvisation class, I was the task was to build work for other dancers. So I was already making things before I knew how to dance.
mm.
So it was quite fun for me. And also, I mean, I make a joke about being an Aries, but I don't have a problem um, with ideas for movement. It's more about, the work is really about consolidating and narrowing down the focus to what you're actually going to see. So I've got a notebook full of ideas that will last the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's a so that yeah, right. So that's a different tack on it because the I think for a lot of people get moving out of just the being the performer is much more difficult because the whole thing isn't you and you have to design it so the whole thing isn't you anymore. But
One of the great pleasures of my life is, I mean, I'm very inspired by, before I started dancing, my first love was reading, and then visual art and movies and visual art. So I had a visual sense already. And then reading, it was my way of escaping from my childhood in New Jersey, which I not that I love New Jersey, but I was grew up in a house where their art wasn't that important at all. And
right.
my dad was a truck driver, my mom was a housewife. There wasn't a lot of art, although they did take me to see Fiddler on the Roof when I was about 10,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
the only time we went to Broadway. But had a visual, I was a visual person, and I was very drawn to the written word. So the structure of things was very important to me and very exciting for me. And honestly, when you're a dancer, and I say this to all young artists who want to become choreographers, first you have to crack the mystery of making movement. What do you want your body to do? And that's just the beginning. Once now, especially because of the sharing information electronically, you can learn movement off your video, off your computer very
Mhm.
easily. So it's different than when I was younger. But putting it in a context in space is a very foreign topic for many young creators. And so, to crack the mystery first of making movement, and then figure out what you're going to do with it, and that is the task of choreography.
Well,
But
and if you're a visual person, our nature is to think in two dimensions
mhm.
as opposed to in space with bodies.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's
and,
interesting because I actually do think in two dimensions a lot because first film and TV and then the book, and those were, the page is
Mhm.
flat and the screen is flat. So a lot of interesting that you brought that up. A lot of the earlier work, I was using filmic devices and then from the flat screen and then putting them into space. So, for example, I mean, one of the big things that I was doing when I was in my 20s was quickly moving things from the back of the stage to the front of the stage, because that to me was a zoom in, um,
mm,
or
okay.
or moving things left to right like a camera would pan. That language was from film was in my visual paint box, so I was applying that to three dimensions in a very childish and maybe rudimentary way, but it turned out to be um, worth my while, I
But
suppose.
but I think but I think audiences can relate to that because it gives them a place to hang a particular thing. And
Yeah,
so yeah, I think that works.
cool.
The no, and I don't know, in my youth, I got called upon to do a lot of stage lighting. And one of the things that is really the fascination of that discipline is, um, again, it's not just a picture, it's
Right.
physical things. And you want to make them like present as physical things.
Add a
Um,
little water and shake.
yeah, there you go.
Speaking of pictures, you want to show a picture?
Yeah, well, I brought them up here. Now I have to see. All right, hold on. If I double click on that, it's going to ask me. Well, here we go. My problem is I'm not sure where it's going to. Ah, here we go. That's fine. So what I was going to do again
I
is
don't see anything.
not, well, I got it up, and now let's go here. And there you go.
Ta-da.
Yeah, so
So that's probably 1992. That was and the photograph is Annie Leibovitz. The
yeah.
costume is Manolo, who was somebody that I was working with on numerous occasions. I loved working with him, and he made that costume for it was a benefit for fashion and art in support of AIDS. And
Hmm.
so I hit it off with Annie, and she invited me back into the studio a couple of times, and we did a series. And she made me do that jump about 8,000 times,
Of
and
course.
she told me I would thank her for it, and I'm still thanking her for it. So
No, no, that's a really arresting image. So anyway, let's try another. Let's see if I can do this and we come up with all right. Okay, up. They I knew that was going to happen. The so here.
okay, so this image is from New Prayer for Now, which I made during the pandemic. Um, uh, the uh, the photograph is Sarah Silver, which is an interesting story. Sarah has done almost 20 years of shooting of my company.
Hmm.
I met her because I was training at a gym in Manhattan, and my trainer at the time said, "Oh, I've got this woman who, she's going to be perfect for you. She likes fashion, she likes movement," and and I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And I didn't really pay much attention to him, and he said, "Look, I want you to meet her," and I was like, "Tell her to send me her book," and she sent me her book, and I called her immediately, and
Mm.
we have now it's been 20 years of collaborations. I love the way she shoots my work, and the
No,
costumes
that's
are Marine Provan, and so we made this during the pandemic up at the Petronio Residency Center, which is now closed, but it was a very valuable space for young artists to experiment. And during the pandemic, we had a few weeks up there, and it was one of the only places we could work because everything else was shut down. And that work, New Prayer for Now, was very much obsessed with touching. Because we couldn't touch. No, we weren't supposed to touch each other out in the real world. So of course, the minute we got in the studio, we were isolated and tested, and then of course all we could do was touch
Right.
each other. The whole dance is about touching.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can do this without. Oh, okay. I managed to not close the thing this time. So
So
here's another picture.
this is Larissa, who's one of my dancers, and this is another Sarah Silver photograph of a work that's to premiere in maybe a little under 2 weeks at Skirball NYC and NYU. Sorry, Skirball NYU. The work is called The Breath of the Beast. The costumes are Michelle Rhee, and the music is going to be the incredible Jennifer Coe playing violin live improvisation. So I'm super excited about it. And Michelle, I just met. She's done amazing costumes, and so I hope you can come to that.
What I was going to say, in fact, is so. Can you tell us more? What is the show at Skirball going to be like? What are we? What can all of the people who will be seeing this? They all have to go. Come on, we all have to go. So,
please come. Okay, it's a full work. The breath of the beast. The beast. Who is the beast? I don't know. It might be me. But when I think about the breath of the beast, when I'm most alive, I'm in the studio creating with my dancers, and many artists can relate to this. When you're in the studio, there's a different person that you're with than the person that's out, having dinner or, doing another job. So that creative beast is what we're looking for in this work. Again, it's an abstract construction. Don't expect a story about scary beasts. It's about the wild animal that my dancers become when they dance. And so we really work to disorient ourselves in the creative process and then build physical architectural structures for you to see. So you're going to see a work in two halves. The first half is in silence with some text, and that's much more rough and ready, and that's going to be different every night. There's some improvisational devices we're using, and then the second half, Jennifer Coe will be performing, and that's a highly structured, choreographed 30 minutes of so I really wanted the contrast between rough and ready and improvised and set and choreographed and polished between the two halves. I wanted people to see the rock and then see the diamond.
Okay. No, it sounds like something that we all shouldn't miss. So anyway, this has been a really wonderful time together, and I'm so delighted to meet you, and we'll try to get to Skirball next week. Well, 2 weeks, you said. So
2 weeks, yeah. November 2 through 4. I think it's the marathon is one of those days. So if you're in the marathon, try to come to my show too.
Yes, if you can still walk. But no, my wife ran the New York Marathon once, and she says it's a different experience.
I'll skip that.
But it occupies one's attention.
It does. Well, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So Todd, if you would like to rejoin us and give us our way out.
Thank you, Joe. And I have to just point out, on my shelf, I have this book in absentia.
Okay.
It's sort of a visual document of the pandemic, thanks to and the Petronio Company, thanks to Sarah Silver. Anyway, Stephen, you're a remarkable artist, and incredibly generous of you to share some of your story with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We will be posting this video on our YouTube channel and from social media. and also posting links to the Skirball event. So
Yes.
hope everyone can join.
Yeah.
Thank you
Anyway,
both very much.
all right. And
Mhm.
thank you so much, Stephen.